Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of Beyond the Broadsheet, a Lincoln County News podcast. This is LCN editor Maya Zewert. Our offices are closed for Thanksgiving when we would typically be recording an episode, so the news team is taking a week off. However, LCN sports reporter Mick LaBelle is here to talk about the upcoming basketball season. He'll be joined by Lucas McNelly, who, in addition to working in the Lincoln County Publishing Company print shop, is the founder of Maine Basketball Rankings, a website that provides a comprehensive guide to high school basketball statewide. I'll also be chiming in on occasion when they touch on something that I know a little bit about, or to prompt them with additional questions, because they could definitely talk about this for the next 5 hours. We hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to our preseason coverage of the upcoming basketball season.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, they say sometimes the best ability is availability. And so that's why I'm here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here because I know you're a wealth of knowledge and data.
Yeah, and we should say before we get too deep into this that we're recording this prior to any of the preseason games. And because we had just finished recording the other episode and I was already sitting next to a microphone. And so, that is to say that if we show up at a preseason game and some team has some 6'9" kid from Latvia that transferred in October, we don't know that yet. So we don't have that information.
Correct.
This is a very early look at the season.
It is very early, but we have been gathering some information and checking in on the results from last year as well to kind of prepare ourselves and get ready. Talked to a couple coaches already as well about the upcoming season and their roster and so forth. But really today is the first view of high school basketball for me.
Yeah, you're going to the Wiscasset preseason?
Yeah, there's a turkey tip-off that's going to be held at Wiscasset, and there's 8 teams participating on the boys' side and 8 on the girls' side, Friday and Saturday. So I'll have a look at the Wiscasset boys and girls teams and the Boothbay Region High School boys and girls. And
do we want to start with Wiscasset then?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Wolverines.
The Wolverines, who are on the rebound, I think it's safe to say. The boys are, at least.
Say on the boys' side, I'd say the girls are rebuilding and hoping to get a victory this season, which has been
what was the number that we settled on yesterday?
We're at 133 straight.
Is it 133? I thought it was 113.
Oh my gosh. I believe it's 133, but hold on. Let me check.
I'm getting flashbacks to my high school years.
Lucas is correct. It's 113.
113. Yeah. Well, let's see.
It's a lot.
It's already improved.
Yes. How many seasons was that?
113. Well, so 18 games to a season. That would be, was it like 10 years? Something like
6 or 7.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, around 7, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the math guy.
I think there's a great chance that they'll break that streak this year. I do think that the program is on the rebound. Rebuilding can be a long process, and I think they're getting close now. So I'm excited.
And they're down in D now, which they were last year too.
Yes.
So part of it is with them, and this is a newer thing that probably a lot of people don't know about, is that the MPA has relegation now. And I think Wiscasset's part of the reason for that. So the way relegation works is if over, I think it's a 4-year period, if you win fewer than 25% of your games, they ship you down a class because clearly things are not going well. And hopefully you can get your feet under you and get some experience. And because I think it's really difficult, if you've lost 113 games in a row, it's hard to learn how to win if you're losing by 50 or 60 every game, and that's discouraging and not a lot of fun for you or the teams you're playing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And another path that I've seen programs take is to combine with other schools into a cooperative team. And
you see that less in basketball than you do like field hockey.
Definitely less. Yes. basketball and probably baseball. I don't know that I've seen much baseball
There's
co-ops.
There's a lot in football.
Yes, football, hockey, etc.
Yeah.
Field hockey to a lesser extent.
I mean, and basketball is the sort of flagship sport, high school sport in Maine. So it makes sense that even like North Haven, who has like 20 kids, they've got a basketball team. Everybody gets minutes.
Basketball is king.
Basketball is king.
I've
so
heard that
whether you've
quote.
got 1,500 people like Lewiston does, or you've got 150, you've got a team. Although a couple years ago, Massabesic couldn't field a girls team they've got like 700 something kids.
Yeah, and I have heard from a couple of the programs already that their JV numbers are a little bit down. So that's a slight concern as far as sports participation as we come out of the COVID.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a trend of that.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think Did you say, were you the one who told me Oceanside doesn't have a girls JV program this year?
That was, again, that's secondhand information, but
Right.
yes, I did hear that.
I mean, that matches what I've heard. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, and that's one of the better programs. That's the defending state champions.
Yeah,
That's one of the better programs in the state. So if they're having trouble getting a JV team together, then that tells you something.
Yes, it does.
Although they're probably not repeating. I don't know if that's breaking news, but Bailey Breen went down to Montverde, where Cooper Flagg spent a couple years, and so she's transferred, and obviously that's a big blow to them, and they were the overwhelming favorite in Class B, and now they're most definitely not.
Well, and they lost the younger sister, Breen, in the pipeline. So,
and if she's as good as everyone says, and everyone I've talked to has been blown away with her, I mean, she's gonna go Power 5 conference.
I saw her in a middle school boys game last year, and she dominated that.
Yeah,
so
I've heard that.
A good indication.
So if you're a Lincoln or Medomak fan, you're very thankful that they are getting the best opportunity that they can get to further their basketball careers and play against the best competition in the country. And hopefully they are in the WNBA someday, and she's the next Caitlin Clark. But you're also very glad that you don't have to watch her do it in your gym.
Yes, I've seen it done in the past. So I'll miss her, though. It's fun to watch a dominant player like that.
It's always fun to watch talent.
Yeah.
It's always fun to watch talent. Even, sometimes you're just like, boy, it'd be nice to get a break from this. But, it's fun to watch.
This will be the year, hopefully. And we'll dive into that in a second.
There's a lot of kids around the state who are like, hey, Cooper Flagg dunked on me. Which was maybe not fun at the time, but now it's a great story.
Right?
You can dine out on that for weeks.
Yeah, well, good experience, humbling experience. Well, on the numbers theme, one team I did notice that we're about to talk about had some good numbers at their tryout. That's Wiscasset High School. Was over there at practice. And noticed that they have 25 kids.
Oh, that's not bad.
Which is pretty good for a small school that up until last year wasn't winning a lot of games. In fact, 2 years ago, they won only one game.
And that was their first season. In like 45 straight or 44 straight, I think.
So much so, that was such a huge deal. We put it on the front page of the paper that week that they had snapped their streak. It was awesome. So.
Yeah. And then last season, with new coach Jamie Roy, they came right out of the gates. They were at the top of Class D for quite a while before kind of cooling off and facing more difficult competition. But yeah, they came off strong at the start of last season.
They went 9-9, right?
They went 9-9, but I believe they were 5-1 at one point. I think 4-1. They had a good start.
If memory serves, they fattened up on Vinyl Haven. Because Vinyl Haven plays those double headers. And I think they beat Vinyl Haven a couple times because Vinyl Haven was abysmal last year. Yeah, they went 0-18 and got outscored by 657 points.
Ooh, wow.
So they got those wins against Vinyl Haven, but those aren't worth anything in heel points.
True.
So then they ended up being the 5 seed, I believe.
I believe that's correct, yep. And they beat the 4 seed, Buckfield.
Yeah.
And they have everyone back. Which a lot of coaches don't have that that benefit from year to year. So it was a young team last year. Everyone's back, and more importantly, they have a young player back from injury.
Okay.
Landon Shirey. He caught the end of last season. I think he played their last 5 regular season games, got his footing, and then he really excelled in the that playoff win. And well, then they ran up against Valley. And
right. Yeah.
I don't think anybody was going to save them then. But yeah, it is exciting. This kid, he's a good shooter. He's a good athlete, and looking forward to seeing what he can do in a full season.
And Valley was a wagon. They're going to be even better this year. They had 2 sophomores who each got their 1,000th point. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, as sophomores.
As sophomores?
As sophomores.
Wow.
Well, in Class D, you can play in the 8th grade.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like,
I didn't know that.
If you're small enough, if you're below, I forget what the number is, the enrollment, then they can bring up 8th graders to play. Forest Hills has been doing this for years.
Oh,
There's
wow.
this steady stream of Desjardins coming up from the 8th grade. It just never stops. I don't know how many people are in this family, but
So
it's a lot.
You can learn a lot on these podcasts.
Yeah, see?
I was unaware of that, but yeah, that's interesting. And with this Wiscasset team, they did get a couple freshmen that are on the roster this year that I did see play middle school that are good athletes also. So,
And was Paula saying that Paula Roberts was saying that the Wiscasset girls have some freshmen coming in?
she did mention that. I have not seen them in action yet. She actually went over and watched one of their practices. And despite that, I do think they still have a high hill to climb for multiple reasons, not just numbers and experience, but they're not a very large team either.
In terms of like height?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could affect them, and we'll get into that maybe here about some other teams as well. There's some teams seem to have tall players, and that helps with defense.
There are some
and
teams. Are you saying
rebounds
there are some teams that are taller than
Yes.
the Wiscasset girls?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
much taller. And that's not everything. You can't see me here on this podcast, but I'm a little guy. So
Steph Curry does just fine. I'll
True.
have you know.
True.
And he is not tall.
Yes,
He's
we
taller
can-
than us.
though.
we can
I'm
put
sure.
Mick and Steph Curry on the court together. You wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
could take
often
him.
say that. I often call Mick the Steph Curry of the
Ah.
Lincoln County News.
I'm a scrapper. I can definitely play hoops, but I can't dunk,
No.
and never will.
Don't say that. It's a good New Year's resolution. Learn how to dunk in 2025.
You get those shoes, those special shoes, that don't have the heel, that like strengthen your legs, and you could be dunking by this time next year.
There you go.
We'll check back
Get
in
a personal
on
trainer.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of
Yeah.
exercises I can be doing.
All
to
your
improve
extra
my,
free time.
My jumping. But yeah, so maybe we can start with Wiscasset.
Sure, let's start
And
with
we'll be
Wiscasset.
seeing them shortly. I'm actually pretty excited to see that. Yeah, they returned their whole team. They were a really scrappy, quick, fast, competitive team. At times, I think their shooting was a little bit off, but that's something you can work on in the summer and practice without a season. So hopefully
Sure.
they've done a little bit of that. I expect that they have, but they got a couple seniors in particular. Their captains, Alex Richard and Javar Garrix. The two of them were also the two leading scorers last season. And I expect them to have another big year. Javar is a leader on the court. Both of them are guards. Both are very athletic and good competitors. So that's a good core right there. And then, they have a good supporting cast of seniors. So this year they'll probably, be very competitive, but after that, they might drop off again for another year, depending on.
Which will be tricky because if they're very competitive this year, they might go back to C. Because the girls will stay in D, I'm pretty sure. But the boys might get bumped back up to C, which is something that's going to happen with Noble, too, in Class A. And then if you just look at D South, you got Valley. They're going to be awesome this year. Forest Hills is going to be pretty good this year because they've got another one of the Desjardins, and just keep coming. And I'm not sure about St. Dominic's, but those were the top 3 teams last year. So I think if they could get into the top 3, that might be asking a lot.
It's tough to say that they'll crack that because I did see those other 3 teams, and I agree with you. Those are some strong teams.
I mean, they might only lose to each other, those teams.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think if Valley could go undefeated, and I wouldn't be surprised.
They were amazing. I think that playoff score was something like 75-35.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And at halftime, it was much closer, but Valley just rolled.
And that's, they have a history of doing that in the tournament. I think they won 4 straight gold balls in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think it was the 90s.
Well, this could be their time again.
Yeah, they're on a...
If they didn't graduate a lot, and I haven't...
Well, they had those 2 sophomores. They didn't graduate them, so...
Yes, right. Yeah. Yeah. So other players, Spencer Smith Pinkham, he put up a lot of points. He's a dynamic guard as well. Really good shooter. And then they do have some guys with decent size that I think will help on the boards. Tucker Davenport, Ismael Martinez. He's a 6'3" forward center for them. And then they did get some other young guys that have come into the program. I haven't gotten a look at it except in middle school, so we'll see. They probably shot up a few inches.
Probably, yeah. I mean, 6'3" is pretty good size for Class D.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
So, I mean, I've seen Class B schools that don't have a 6'3" kid.
Yes. Well, I was looking at the Boothbay roster.
Do they not have a 6'3" kid?
If we segue to that. They do in Spencer Wenners, but I believe he's their only guy over 6 foot. There is, you know what? There is a guy that I believe is a tennis player, Harry Hinckley, who I haven't had a look at and don't remember him from their roster last year. It says he's 6'6". So
wow,
he's a junior.
He's a 6'6"
so
junior?
I don't know. He might be coming back to basketball. I'll have to talk with Coach Hallen, and I guess I'm gonna see him today. So
there you go.
I'll get a look.
There's always the joke of you see the 6'6" kid on the roster, but then you don't see him in the starting lineup. You're like, oh, okay, he's just 6'6", and they're like, dude, you're playing basketball, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
you're 6'6". I'm sorry, those are the rules.
When you really need those rebounds, you just stick them down.
Yeah, you're
and just lift, grab it, throw it out. It's fine.
You're like, he's 6'6". We can teach him how to do something.
Right. That could be the case here, but we'll find out. Maybe he's got a lot of game.
Can I see that roster actually, real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna see if I recognize any of the names on it.
Yeah, the other thing that's exciting about Boothbay Region High School basketball boys team this year is they have Maddox Cusimano back. He's a really good football player, and he got hurt in football last year, and he did not play basketball. Oh. And so they're expecting big things out of him. And again, that's another person that I need to lay my eyeballs on to be a believer. But I know he's a really good baseball and football player, so I think that'll really help him out. Unfortunately for Boothbay, they lost their top 2 scorers last year. Finn Harkins.
I was going to say, that's what I was looking for on the roster.
Yeah, Finn's a really good player. That is unfortunately going to be a big hurdle for them to jump over this year.
And that's a lot to lose. So Boothbay went 5-13 last year. They got outscored by 262 points on the year, and C South is tough.
It is.
It's a really, really tough region.
Yeah, they took their lumps in a couple games last year. They were a young team also, and they definitely have some work to do on defense, I would say. But when they got Harkins going last year, they could roll and they could win some games. So I'm a little worried about that. They have good athletes on their roster. Adric Canada's a really good football player, track guy. He can fly, but he wasn't able to shoot great last year. But if he's improved that, then that'll be a big boost for them.
So to put the defense in perspective, they were last in C South last year in scoring defense. And they were, I think, last in Class C.
Huh. Yeah.
So
for the listeners at home, who are the top teams in that region, just to kind of contextualize it?
So last year, the top teams, Mount Abram, Monmouth, Richmond, and Halldale were the top 4 in that region. And Old Orchard Beach was down, but I feel like I heard they're going to be good this year.
Well, their football team was really good.
Their football team's really good, yeah. Usually
an indicator. But yeah, Boothbay has some work to do, for sure. They also lost Luke Morley. He's a really good big man player on the boards, put back type baskets that he was scoring. So they're going to have to replace that too. They do have a good athlete in Tyson French. He's their quarterback in football. He was good last year. Again, he was a little bit streaky on his shooting, and he'd get 15 or so points one game, and he'd have 2 or 4 the next. And so if he can get some consistency, I think that'll go a long way. They have a couple of freshmen that I did see in the middle school program. Their team went 14-1.
Okay.
And lost in the bus line championship.
Okay.
Game. So
that sometimes translates and sometimes doesn't.
Exactly.
Because I feel like Belfast is in the bus line league championship a lot and not in the other championships ever.
Yeah, I believe it was Lincolnville that they lost to.
Okay.
But they have freshman Les White, Lessie, I believe he goes by more commonly. He's a good player. Peyton Barter, I saw him score some big baskets to win games last year. And Ethan Clark, a really good track runner in cross country that's on the roster here. If they can get some of those young guys going, I think they can compete. But otherwise, honestly, I think, they've got a pretty big hill to climb.
Yeah. To lose the guys they lost and to be 5-13 last year, they might not have found the bottom yet. I hope not. You hope not, but
we'll see today. Hopefully that'll. Again, you hate to rely on freshmen to kind of.
But so there's a flip side to that. It's you want to do better than 5-13, and if you don't, and you're relying on a lot of freshmen, that also there's something to be said for bottoming out and getting a lot of experience for your freshmen.
Very true.
And then rebuilding, and you can't tank for the draft. But which would be something. That would be so much fun. But you can get your freshmen a lot of minutes.
That's a great point. And as a coach, girls lacrosse high school coach, I've been through that actually. And more recently, last year and now this coming year, I've had players that benefited from exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So they got a lot of starting time as freshmen, even more as sophomores. And yes, so that could be the case, and hopefully that will be the case, and Boothbay will.
And sometimes you find a kid on the roster who you didn't think was going to be good.
Yes.
And you get them some minutes with some of the older kids, and you go, oh, okay, there's something here. And, we've seen numerous players do that locally.
Yeah, and I do think at least one of those freshmen will emerge this year for Boothbay.
I can think of a couple kids, and I won't name them because that would be mean. But I can think of a couple kids where you watch them as like a freshman or a sophomore, and you're like, buddy, have you considered chess?
Lucas, oh my God.
And then they turn out to, they get to their senior year, they're averaging 15, 16 points a game.
Very true.
Or more.
Making the jump from like middle school to, in this case, you're going from 8th grade to varsity starting lineup because we need you there. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a bit of a little mental load. So, and then by sophomore year, they're like, I've been here before, whatever.
And not very many freshmen contribute on good teams. Mm-hmm. It's a situation. Usually we were talking about this fall with Jaden Ruiz, how rare that is. Because in basketball, you can stick them in the corner and they can shoot threes or they can play some scrappy defense. But you don't see a lot of freshmen as like a lead guard. True. Or your starting center, something like that. It's very rare. Even like little Nick DePatsy was a 6th man as a freshman, and he scored like 1,300 points in his career.
Yeah.
And he was the coach's kid. So he was, if anyone was ready to plug and play freshman year, it's the coach's kid who was second all-time leading scorer in school history when he's done, and even he was a 6th man. that team went to states. So that's a little different than being on a 5-13 team. But just, that's how difficult it can be to contribute as a freshman.
And I think in this case with Boothbay and talking with Dan Allen and the head coach, he said he's going to be patient with the freshmen. He already said that there'll be swing players. They're going to play JV games, and he wants them.
That's good because the JV minutes are equally valuable.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. So I think he has the right approach there.
He's a smart guy, so.
They're rebuilding anyway, but I do like your point about the more young players, get going early. That can pay dividends later on. So we'll see how that approach pans out, and if some of the more experienced Boothbay players can step up so that those freshmen aren't needed, and that could be the case. They only graduated a few guys as well, so they have a lot of guys back that were more role players, kind of in the background, and this is their time to shine. That's how that works. So,
gonna get your shots up, buddy.
We'll see. Like you were saying, they might have made big improvements. Coach Hallinan did not indicate that they had. So
maybe
see.
he's just playing it cool.
Could be,
doesn't
right?
want to overpromise.
Yeah,
he doesn't want them to be scouted, is what he wants.
Oh yeah, that's
what
true.
He's going for.
That's good.
that could be.
He's like, no, let him shoot. It's fine. He can't shoot. He can't shoot. And then, whoa, oh my goodness, 20 points. Who would have thought?
Well, the proof is in the pudding, and I know preseason is preseason, but I will at least get eyeballs on these guys later today.
You'll get a sense pretty quickly.
Yeah. So the excitement,
Yes.
in Lincoln County basketball, not to say that
Are we moving to B South? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
We are. Not to say that the Eagles, won't have a competitive team, but everybody is excited about the Medomak Valley.
Let's do Lincoln first, and then we'll work.
Yeah, sure.
So the Lincoln boys are one of my most interesting test cases for this season, statewide actually, because the way to explain this is there's different types of programs. There's your strong programs that are there every year. They're always in the mix. Your Falmouth, your Medomak Valley, your Hamden, and then there's your Wiscassets who are perpetually not in the mix, and then there's everybody else, right? And so there's a type of program, and I like to call it the Morse problem, which is not to bag on Morse, but whatever, who is playing Wiscasset this year? Someone explain that to me. Anyway, I digress. So it's a program that's, they're 5-13, they're 4-14, whatever, every year, and then they get a group of kids that all play together, and all of a sudden they're 16-2, or they're 15-3, and they make a run, and then those kids graduate. And every time this happens, they go, "Oh man, we've solved our youth program. They're talking up. We're gonna stay in the mix next year." And sometimes they do, and sometimes they go back to 4-14, and that's what Morse usually does. But Nokomis is an example of Cooper Flag came through, and then now they're competitive again, and it stuck somehow. I'm not 100% sure what happened there, but it stuck. And so the test for Lincoln is, because they lost almost everybody, but everyone keeps telling me, "Oh no, our youth program is fixed. We've got a new wave of people." But the only people on that team who did anything last year are the Hunt twins, and the other guys might step up or they might not. And so it's a really interesting team.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And the other thing of note is that they didn't play a big bench last year.
They didn't.
They really focused on the 7 or 8 players.
They went like 7-8 deep, yeah.
Yep. And then a lot of these other guys got a little bit of action, like all of those other guys on the bench. Mm-hmm. I will say that I think the future down the road is pretty bright for them. They do have a lot of really good freshmen. There's an 8th grader lurking at Nobleboro.
Okay.
Who's going to be an exciting player.
Is he going to go to Lincoln?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's the question.
See, there you go.
Oh,
Nobleboro, he's got school choice.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the issues. That's one of the problems Wiscasset's had historically, is because everybody around them had school choice.
Great.
So,
Yes.
where do you want to play?
Yeah. Well,
How
that
important
will play
are the
itself out
academics to
fairly
you?
soon. And that kid dominated last year as a 7th grader in the bus line league. So
Jeez.
he is going to be a beast.
I remember you turning in a photo and I had to double check to make sure it was labeled correctly as a middle school game.
What's this kid's name?
Brown is the last name.
Brown. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is it
Tyson?
Tyson Brown?
Yeah,
might
I believe
be
that's
Tyson.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
He's also a really great kid. I know his family, and they're
I
all
also know the
good
family?
humans. Yes, you do.
Okay, so that might be a Lincoln kid then.
Yeah,
I think that's a Lincoln kid then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so
would be my
hopefully-
guess. I'm not speculating other than I just know what T-shirts they wear at games.
Let's just say if they allowed 8th graders to play at Class B, he could.
There's a
he
couple
could
of those
handle it.
floating around the state.
Yeah, he's a big kid. Good player.
So what's your take on them? Because if you've seen them, did you go to a practice?
I did go to a practice.
Do you think they're ready to step up? Who might step up? So we don't want to cast aspersions on anyone, but who might step up if they're going to stay in the mix?
Yeah,
And I don't think anyone thinks they're going to be the 2 seed again.
They do have some players from their JV team. The captain, Donahue, is a good player. He's a great athlete. He's a all-state race walker.
Race walking.
So he'll be maybe
Okay.
get some
I've never understood race.
calls for walking.
It is amazing to watch. I'm not
so
going to lie.
weird.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen him. Yeah,
Yeah, you have.
I've seen him race walk. Okay.
So whether that translates into basketball, we'll see. Otto Schoenthal, big tall kid.
Is he the German kid?
I don't.
He's like 6'7"?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's not.
No.
Maybe not be German. I'm just thinking Otto is German.
Yes.
So he's back
Yes, he's back.
because he's an international student. He's not an international student.
No, that's what
Isn't
I
he a
thought
dorm
as well. I don't think so.
kid? I thought he was a dorm kid.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
not
look at
sure
us
to be
speculating
honest.
on high schoolers.
Yeah, I know he's a sailor, and I met with him
sailor.
on that topic.
All
Yes.
right.
I digress. But
So that's a big positive for
Yes,
them. Is
it
that
could
if he's
be.
back because he's a big kid, and if he seemed like he was starting to put it together playing JV minutes last year.
yes, and they had an excellent JV season. So can that actually translate?
Can they
Can
translate
the
it?
kids graduate from JV to varsity? And
So the question is, we think they'll
boost
be
them.
back in the mix next year. Can they stay in the mix this year in this transition year to the next class? And because I don't know that the hunts are great, the hunt kids are great, but I don't know if that's enough to get you, out of the playing round.
Yeah, and I think part of the question is up front. Honestly, do they have the size? Do they have, the ability up there? And
How healthy is Tyson Ball?
He looked pretty good.
Because I didn't
At
see him
practice,
playing this
I-
summer. I saw them this summer. He was still not playing.
Yeah, so he was active at practice, but I did not have that conversation yet.
Okay.
So that is a big question mark. He's really the only returning big, so to speak. Like we talked about, Otto is a tall guy. And Terry Welly is another player that
Oh, yeah. Okay.
that could really, they're going to count on him to contribute a lot more. And I was surprised he didn't get more minutes last year. I thought when he got in there, he shot the ball well. He's got good size. He can play forward. So we'll see. I think that's who, again, it's early in the season.
Right.
I haven't even spoken with Coach Ryan Ball yet about, the lineup.
So
but-
what do you think the range is for them this year, seeding wise?
Well, I think they'll be a playoff team, but I think they're going to be scraping to get in there.
Like a 5 seed, maybe 5 to 7, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, that might even be optimistic because
Right.
they really turned over, other than the Hunts, of their top 8. I believe those are the only 2 back.
I just want to say
That's a lot.
because we don't talk a lot about soccer, but the Hunt kid, I can't tell them apart. But the Hunt kid who's not the goalie,
EJ.
I've never seen a soccer player throw in that far.
Nor have I.
I was even thinking, I'm like, well, maybe it's just the games I'm watching. But then I was at the state games, and they still weren't doing it in the Class A state games.
It's
and
like
I don't
a
watch
corner kick.
It's more effective than a corner
Yeah,
kick because
it
he has
is.
more control over it.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the most interesting secret weapons I saw all year.
It is.
What you're telling me is last second, you got to get it down the court. He's the one at the baseline throwing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's throwing the ball to Christian Leitner for that last shot.
Yeah, right.
But he was throwing it like from like the 30-yard line on a throw-in, hitting the net,
Good God.
like right on goal.
Yeah. And he's a scrapper. He's
definitely a scrapper.
tenacious.
They're fun to watch on
competitor.
basketball court.
Yeah, so they'll it'll be interesting too to see how far they can carry the team. Points wise, they're good shooters. That wasn't their role last year.
They're not really scorers. They're more facilitators, I think, more Derek White types.
I agree. So whether they can somehow
carry the load,
change their game over, that'll be something to see. So that's I know we're limited on time.
You want to go to the girls?
Well,
how are the girls?
Are we going to talk about the Panthers?
Well, you still need to. What I'm thinking is we make this a 2-part. We conclude with the Panther boys, and then we get you guys back in to talk about the girls' season.
All right, we can do that. Yeah. All right, so let's go to Medomak.
Because we don't want Mick to be late for the game that he's been talking about.
All right, so the Medomak boys. On my podcast, which I'm going to plug here now because...
You can do that.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
The Maine Basketball Rankings podcast. Last spring, we were sort of doing a quick look ahead while we were talking about... I think we were talking about Mr. Basketball or something. And I sort of looked at B South, and if you look at last year in B South boys, Oceanside, the top 5 teams, Oceanside, Lincoln, York, Medomak, and Yarmouth. Oceanside lost a ton. Lincoln lost everybody. York lost a bunch. Yarmouth lost their point guard and their leading scorer, whose name escapes me. And there's not... So B South is kind of emptied. Medomak didn't lose a lot. They lost Donlin, which is a lot, but it's your normal graduation losses. I thought then in the spring, I said, maybe I'm a little biased because my brother coached there and is a teacher there. I think they're the favorite in B South. And Adam goes, yeah, I think they are. I think it's them, and I think it's Spruce Mountain, and then maybe Cape, someone like that. And then they got Rocco DePatsy transfer in from Chevrolet, who's 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, he's just a perfect fit.
Yeah, I love the fit for him, and this is what people at Chevrolet told me, was he's a perfect person to put next to Gabe Lash.
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be deadly.
Because Rocco can guard the other team's big, and that frees up Gabe Lash, who I think is one of the best defensive players in the state.
Agreed.
He can then guard the other team's best non-point guard, let's say. And then they've got a ton of guards because Medomak always has a ton of good defensive guards to throw at the other team's best point guard. And I think they're the favorites in B South.
I agree.
I think they're the favorites in B.
I agree.
And I just going to point out that the last time the Medomak Valley boys won a gold ball, I was 5 months old or something like that.
And you are how much older than that?
Old. Very old. Old and decrepit, and body parts hurt for no reason whatsoever. But I think they're the favorites, and everyone I'm talking to thinks they're the favorites.
Yeah. I mean, and it starts with the coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many games has he won?
It's like 800 billion. I can tell you they have the longest streak in the state of 10-win seasons, even winning 10 games in the 12-game COVID season, which is pretty hard to do. I don't think Nick DePatsy has won fewer than 10 games in a season at Medomak, and he's been there a very long time. And they're one of those programs they're just always there. And it's when you talk to people and you say they haven't won since 1980, they look at you and they go, what? Really? And they should have against Cape Elizabeth. And we all have post-traumatic stress from that, but they didn't. And the question is this their year?
I think it is. I love their lineup. And, they were really good last year. And, with the addition of Rocco and just the progression that we're going to have to assume with some of these other athletes, Christian Schumann and Vishal Malor.
I love watching him play. I love his game.
He's amazing.
And Luke Cheeseman. He's a great soccer player. I was surprised when I pulled up the stats that he contributed quite a few points last year. Good athlete. He's going to be better
really good defensive
as
player.
Well. Mason, a great forward. I just think they have the complete lineup, really.
I think what's key to for them is that they don't need Gabe Lash to score 25 points to win because they have enough offense floating around, but you're going to have to key on Gabe Lash to have a chance to win.
Yeah.
And he's a smart enough player that I don't think he's going to force it. And he's going to keep everybody else involved.
I think it was great having him have that season with Corey last year where, Corey had that role. Corey's job was to score points. Gabe's job was to, control the ball, control the defensive end, and lead the team. And so, it'll be interesting, who's going to fill that big scoring role that Corey had. That's the question.
It might be Mason.
I think it could be. He could be the scorer in the wings, so to speak. I think he is. From what I saw last year, I think he could step into that role. And I just think they're going to get a lot more production out of everybody this next season, including the point guards, Schumann. I think he can fill it up too.
Were you at the Coney League championship game, or was that Paula who went to that?
I went to it wasn't the championship game, but I did go this summer, and I saw their team in action, and it was impressive. So I got to see Rocco play.
I have not seen Rocco. I saw Rocco play at Chevrolet, but I've not seen him play with them. The games I went to, Gabe was playing AAU, I think. So it was I forget what it was called, thing they did over the summer, and they won those games without either of them.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So he's a good fit. He bangs the boards. He's a big body. He's not afraid to use it. He can shoot. I was really surprised actually at his shooting ability. Really nice stroke. He was hitting 3-pointers, taking some outside shots. So for a big, center or forward, he can also shoot. So just that threat makes him,
Yeah, and the defense he played, the games I saw him at Chevrolet, like he was pretty good defensively. Yeah. And he was starting for Chevrolet, and Chevrolet was one of the 5 best teams in the state last year.
Yeah, so that's a big pickup. They were going to be a great team this year without him, but I just think that really completes the puzzle for them. So I'm wicked excited to see.
Mick, out of curiosity, what does Medomak have for seniors this year? Like, who are they?
Well, it'd be Gabe.
Would be Gabe.
Gabe and Rocco.
Yes.
Would be 2. They're going to lose a lot.
Yeah, Schumann. Malor is a senior. I'm not sure about Dosty, who's one of their role players, but he'll get more play time this year.
So that's a program though that I don't worry about them.
Right.
Yeah,
like they could have an 8th grader come in who just lights everyone up.
True.
Yeah.
There's a little guard that I'm going to give a plug to.
Oh, go for it.
Landon Starr, I thought had a fantastic summer. In fact, I was like, whoa, I hope Christian is working hard because this kid wants his job.
There's always a star.
Yeah. Right.
He might be the last one, I think.
I'm not sure, but he really caught my eye. And, I think he's the Christian Schumann in waiting. But we'll see, how much, Nick is going to use a young guy like that, probably sparingly. If I know him, he'll ease him in.
Yep, he'll work him in.
But I do see that kid making an impact also as one of the younger players. I believe he's a sophomore.
Okay.
That had a good JV season from what I understand. And
Nick does a really good job of mixing those kids in with the starters, so it's not just a bench unit running around with their heads cut off, and they're actually in there having to run the sets and do the things, and then the seniors and the veterans are making sure they're doing the right things, and that's one reason they keep winning is because you don't have a situation where you're like, well, I don't know. They played JV last year. He's going to be starting this year. Good luck, kid.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
And you made a good point there. One thing I wasn't able to see with the star kid is how he controls the game. I mean, this was summer ball. He was flying. He was shooting. He was very dynamic. But does he have the head, to play that position in particular, which is what Nick's looking for. So
the star kids are always fun to watch.
Out. Yeah, I can imagine he'll have a big role for them even as a youngster.
All right, guys, with our last few minutes remaining,
are we out of time?
We're almost out of time, but I want to ask what your big prediction is for the season.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
My big prediction is Medomak. I think they're gonna take the South. Beyond that, so many things go into, that time of year. Are you healthy? Do you have momentum? And obviously not seeing the competition yet or anything like that. But I can at least say that I can't imagine that they wouldn't at least make the finals in the South, if not
Fingers
take
crossed.
it, but.
So I will add on to your prediction in that. So the state game this year for B is in Portland. I think it's Medomak. And for one reason, I really think it's Medomak. The other reason is if I don't say that, I will be excommunicated.
From your family.
From my family. So my add-on prediction to that is that they will play Caribou.
Oh.
And the Caribou fans
we can talk about that game.
are already pre-gaming for this game. So Maya and I went to the Caribou when they famously won their first gold ball in like 800 years or whatever it was, 50 years. And Susan Collins showed up and it was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing.
We were up in the hockey press box at the hockey rink where they play basketball. And the Caribou fans were in the hockey press box where they're not allowed to be, very drunk. Every single person who had ever been to Caribou in their life was at that game. They outdrew Cape Elizabeth, who was 5 miles down the road.
I want to say like 9-1.
Yeah, it was like a 9 to 1 ratio of drunk Caribou fans who got there the night before, then pre-gamed all day in the Old Port, and then stumbled into
Oh boy!
to the
I
gym.
hope we get to see that.
I also want to say that gym was loud.
It was very loud.
Like I saw Panic at the Disco there, and the Caribou fans were louder. It was just an electric experience. It was amazing.
Nice.
And it was a great game.
And Medomak fans travel very well. They're
do.
one of the more well-traveled fan bases in
agree.
the state. So a Caribou Medomak state game
Be heaven.
could be electric.
Yeah.
So you should get your tickets now.
We'll just start like a tent lineup in front
Yeah.
for, in February.
I mean, I don't think it's going to outdraw the Cooper and Ace homecoming games that
Fair.
were last year, but it's going to, if that's the matchup, that's going to be an event.
Yes.
That's my prediction.
Yeah. Can
That's a
I
good
make one
one.
more prediction?
Of course.
I do think Wiscasset's going to have a winning record.
You think so?
I do. I think they could make some noise. That I think Jamie's got their ear. Jamie Roy, their coach, it was his first year last year. I just think that they, with the kid coming back, Landon Shirey, I think that they're much improved. And like you said, that it's Class D.
Right.
So we could see something there.
There's a lot of wins on that schedule
Yeah.
built in. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll beat Morse.
Yeah.
We
they?
got to figure
Right?
out why
I
they're
don't know.
playing Morse. It
I don't
doesn't
know.
make any sense
doesn't
at
make-
all.
Yeah,
Morse is also playing Sacopee Valley.
And they do have a tough schedule. He did.
Yeah, I don't know.
So they play Morse,
Yeah.
and then they have 3 Class C games as well. So they do have
Those are their conference games. Right?
other than conference, I guess, with
Oh, okay.
Class D.
Class D, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because they moved into that Class D conference.
Yeah.
They're out of the MVC or whatever it's called.
Mountain Valley.
Thank you, Mountain Valley Conference. And I just don't know why they're playing Morse. They're not in the same
I don't
conference
know.
as Morse. I know they're down the road.
Yeah.
But
Probably the
Who's got-
convenience of travel.
Yeah,
if
it's
I
gotta be.
had to guess.
Gotta be.
as my question is Morse bad this year? Because if Morse has any playoff aspirations,
They're playing a Class D team
they're not going to play Wiscasset unless they're thinking, oh, look at all these heel points.
or rivalry or something.
But they're not really
Perhaps.
rivals. Like, is it a heel point play? Because if you think so Wiscasset, if they're going to be good, then, and they're going to win a lot of games, the easiest way to get heel points is to beat the Class D team
True.
that's beating up on all the bad Class D teams.
Interesting. Lucas should have been an athletic director.
I'm just curious. I know they're athletic
Building
director too. I'm
schedules.
going to have to
You
ask him
should
when I see him.
ask them. Yeah.
Building the schedule.
I'm going to be like, why are you
strategically.
playing Wiscasset? What is happening?
But speaking of scheduling, the Medomak teams have doubleheaders against both Oceanside and Camden this year, and I am excited.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, that is the one hurdle I think Medomak will have to get over is they do have a tough schedule.
They have a tough schedule, but Oceanside lost so much.
Right.
They lost the Galleys.
Keep
They
telling me
lost
that.
the Ripley kid.
Yeah.
The Ripley kid went to Belfast. He was their center, their freshman center, who had a really big game in the gold ball game. He went to Belfast because his father got the coaching job there. Okay. So I think Belfast, if you want an extra prediction, Belfast is going to be much improved this year.
Interesting.
I don't know that they're going to be in the playoffs much improved, but they might, be a 500 team.
Yeah. Other prediction, I think Eagles will make the playoffs, but like I said, I think it'll be tough sledding a little bit.
I can see that.
Again, tough schedule.
Yeah.
But I meant to say this earlier. Didn't their JV team go undefeated last year? And
did.
I understand it's two different arenas.
Yeah.
But you got to figure some of that teamwork from that level will translate up.
And that might surprise some teams too. Yeah. That are thinking, they graduated,
they lost
6 or 8 guys. But yeah, I have seen some of those young guys play, and I went to some of those JV games and covered those, and they have a good team coming up. So whether they can, whether that translates to the varsity stage and bigger competition and so forth, that'll be yet to be seen. But that is why I put them in the playoffs, honestly. Yeah. Otherwise, if I didn't know they have a strong bunch of freshmen coming up as well.
Plus, South is going to be down this year from last year, I think.
Yeah, true. You mentioned with Oceanside. So if some of those younger players can translate into varsity players, then they could have a shot at least of being in the 500 season. And
getting to the expo.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to have you guys back to talk about the girls roundup. We can probably do that next week, if not the week after.
Yeah. It's not hard to schedule.
I mean, you're both in the building. I'm in the building.
Yeah. We didn't talk about 1,000-point scorers. But on the girls' side, I think we have at least one, maybe two, with Katana.
I was going to say, how close is Katana?
She, I believe, has 732, as far as what I added up. It's probably a little bit more because we might be missing a couple of games.
Okay, so that's in range.
And then Miriam Delisle for Lincoln.
Oh,
okay.
Could be close. I didn't see her freshman year stats, but she's in the mix for that as well. So,
and she's coming off a fairly good. I can't remember what sport she plays.
Lacrosse and soccer.
Yeah,
she's a three-sport.
I would think
scorer.
Gabe Lash has got to be.
Well, I thought that too, and I looked it up, but I think his freshman year, I can't remember if he was injured or just typical.
I think they
Nick
had
DePatsy. He didn't play a lot because they had a good team. I don't think he.
That was the
McKinney and Brown.
Yeah, that was that team. So he played.
Yes,
but he was off the bench. But you don't have to score a lot of points in your freshman year to be in range.
Yeah,
you need like 100 points, I think.
Yeah,
to be in good
I think
shape.
he was under that though.
Okay, so maybe.
But yeah, he would probably be a long stretch. But you never know. 500-point season, you could go over the top.
Wow, if he goes all the way to the state game, that's extra games.
True. Good point.
Well, thank you both. I'm kind of thinking we just make this another weekly addition to the schedule.
Sure. We kind of do this. We do this in the office.
I mean,
anyways.
exactly.
This is when I get stuck at mixed text for 10 minutes.
Yes. But
and they're like, "Hey, weren't you doing something?" I'm like, "No, I don't remember."
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Researching.
All right.
Well, we enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope you have enjoyed this special episode of Beyond the Broadsheet with Mick and Lucas. The news team will be back with a new episode on December 9th to talk about Midcoast Humane's town hall meeting about its Edgecombe campus, Medomak Valley High School's first Jazz All-State qualifier, and much more. Be sure to tune in then, but in the meantime, try and get to a basketball game.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. Production support is provided by Tyler Davis of Tyality Productions. Theme music by Stu Mahan and Sherwood Olin.
Have a question or a suggestion? Email us at info@lcnme.com. And if you haven't already, please be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.
This has been a Lincoln County Publishing Company production.